Today is the first day of the month of Kislev. We are beginning chapter 19 today, discussing the laws of the Chazzan's repetition of the Shemona Esrei. We will be doing paragraphs 1 through 7. Now you'll notice that we skipped a day. We skipped the 30th of Chazzan. That's because the calendar that we're using is meant to work every single year, and often there is not a 30th day of Chazzan. Chazzan is one of the months. Chazzan and Kislev both sometimes have 29 days, sometimes have 30 days. Therefore, they don't have anything scheduled for the 30th of Chazzan, and so we did not have an episode yesterday. Paragraph 1. When the Chazzan, the one leading the congregation in prayers, when he finishes the Shemona Esrei, he then takes 3 steps back like everybody else. He waits for a few minutes, and then he takes 3 steps forward to begin a repetition of the Shemona Esrei. He says that opening line of Shemona Esrei, Hashem Sefsai Tiftach Ufiyagid Tilasecha, that God should open up our lips and allow our mouths to say His praises. So he says that line quietly, and then he begins, Baruch Atah Hashem, the Shemona Esrei itself, he begins saying it out loud. While the Chazzan is reciting the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, then the entire congregation is supposed to be listening to his words. It's not a time for schmoozing, it's not a time for browsing on our phones for the latest news. It's time for focusing on what the Chazzan is saying, what leader is saying, and making sure they're saying Baruch Shemo properly to his blessings, or saying Amen properly at the end of each blessing. The Kitzur even says it's really not appropriate to even study Torah during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. However, there are many people that do study Torah during the Chazzan repetition, and it's certainly better than schmoozing or spacing out or being on your phone. No question, looking at a Chumash, catching up on some Torah learning is definitely better than any of that. However, you have to make sure that you're not allowed to talk during Chazaras Hashatz, during the repetition, and therefore any Torah learning that you might be doing, it's best to not do Torah learning, just focusing. But if you are doing Torah learning, then at least make sure that you're not saying any words, you're just scanning something with your eyes. If you're up to it, it's appropriate to stand during the Chazaras Hashatz, during the repetition, but if you're not up to it, then it's totally fine to sit. Paragraph 2. We need a minyan, 10 men, for the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. Preferably, when the Chazzan finishes, you should look around. They should not start the repetition of the Shemona Esrei until there are 9 men who finish their own quiet Shemona Esrei. Sometimes, however, in a small minyan, there's not a lot of people there. If you wait till you have 9 people who finished, it might be a while, and it's not appropriate to make the whole congregation wait. And therefore, in that situation, if you have a small group of people that are davening together, then you can wait till you have 5 other people. And once you have 5 people who finish the Shemona Esrei plus the Chazzan himself, so you have a total of 6, you can now begin the repetition of the Shemona Esrei. Paragraph 3. The Chazzan, the one leading the congregation in prayers, when he's saying the repetition, he has to make sure that he's giving time for everybody who's listening to say Baruch Shemo and Amen. So he has to make sure to pause after he says Baruch Atah Hashem every time. He's got to pause for a few seconds. Everyone says Baruch Shemo. And then after he finishes every blessing, he has to pause for everyone to say Amen. If he goes too fast and people can't say Amen because he's going too fast, then the lack of saying Amen is on him. It's not on the congregation. Paragraph 4. Every repetition of the Shemona Esrei has something called Kedusha. This is after the second blessing of the repetition. In the morning service in the Arskal Sidders on the bottom of page 100, and there's responsive lines that the Chazzan says, and then everybody answers after him. In the Kedusha, we have the special praise that the angels say about God, Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzivakos Melech Haaretz Kavado, that holy, holy, holy is Hashem, Master of legions, the whole world is filled with His glory, and it's an extremely holy prayer. As a matter of fact, the word Kedusha means holiness. Due to that, we stand as if we're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, we stand with our feet together. Also, when we say those words, Kadosh, 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 holy, 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 we're supposed to rise up on our tiptoes by each word, by each of those Kadoshes 3 times. And the next line after that, we say, Baruch Kavod Hashem Ukamo, that blessed is the glory of Hashem from His place. Over there as well, as we say that line, we stand up on our tiptoes as we say that line. Paragraph 5. The second to last blessing of the Shemona Esrei is the blessing of Modim, of giving thanks to God. So when the Chazzan gets up to that point, in the morning service in Arskal Sidders, this is on page 112, you'll see a gray box over there. When the Chazzan is saying his paragraph of Modim, then the congregation, they say their paragraph of Modim. It's a different version, and it's in the gray box. So when the Chazzan bows down, we all bow down as well as we say our paragraph of Modim. If somebody is still in the middle of their own quiet Shemona Esrei, then as if they definitely can't say the words modim, but should they at least bow down? So the answer is depends. If they're in the middle of a paragraph of Shemoneh Esrei, they could bow down, and they should bow down. If they're at the beginning of a paragraph or the end of a paragraph, then they do not bow down. The reason they don't bow down is because the rabbis decreed when they formalized the prayer that we only bow down in Shemoneh Esrei in 4 places. If you remember, the beginning and end of the first paragraph, and the beginning and end of the second to last paragraph. And so if you're going to bow down at the beginning or an end of a paragraph, then you're saying, I'm adding on another one where the rabbis didn't say. If it's in the middle of a paragraph, well, we never bow down in the middle of a paragraph, so clearly you're doing it because of modim. You're not doing it because you're trying to start something new. However, if you're bowing down in the beginning of a paragraph, the end of a paragraph, it looks like you're trying to add on to what the rabbi said, doing something different than the rabbis that formalized the Shemoneh Esrei prayer, and therefore, that's not appropriate. So again, if you're in the middle of your quiet Shemoneh Esrei and the Chazzan is up to modim, if you're at the beginning or the end of the paragraph, then you don't bow. If you're in the middle of a paragraph, you do bow. Paragraph 6. Really, ultimately, we're supposed to have every morning service a birchas kohanim, the Kohanes, the priests, blessing us. However, as we already discussed previously, the Ashkenazi custom is to only do that on holidays. However, the Chazzan, in his repetition, he at least mentions it. And he asks God to bless us with that blessing that the Kohanes are supposed to bless us with. This is on page 116 in the Article Siddur. And we only do it in the morning service. On fast days, we'll do it in the afternoon service as well. Whenever there's a Musaf prayer, then we'll say it during Musaf. The Chazzan will say it during Musaf as well. But remember, if it's a Musaf prayer on a holiday, then you have the Kohanes are giving their blessing. They're doing the Birchas Kohanim themselves, and therefore the Chazzan will not have to do this. As the Siddur says, the appropriate response after each line, the 3 lines of the blessing itself, we don't say amen to it. The custom is to say, Kain Hiratzon, so may it be. One other thing to note is that we don't do Birchas Kohanim if it's in the house of a mourner. If there's a minyan, a service in a shiva house, the Chazzan doesn't do this Birchas Kohanim, and also on Tisha B'Av morning we don't do Birchas Kohanim. The Chazzan does not add in this section about Birchas Kohanim either. Paragraph 7. When the Chazzan finishes his repetition of the Shemoneh Esrei, then he says quietly to himself that line on the bottom of 116 in the Article Siddur. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Hashem, my Rock and my Redeemer. And then he's done. He doesn't have to take 3 steps back like we do at the end of our private Shemoneh Esrei, because he's shortly later going to say Kaddish, which has in it Teskabel, asking God to accept the prayers that we just prayed, which is primarily going on the Shemoneh Esrei and his repetition of the Shemoneh Esrei. And at the end of that Kaddish, he's going to take 3 steps back. So those are in place of him taking 3 steps back now at the end of the repetition. It turns out that the Chazzan is as if he's quasi in the middle of a Shemoneh Esrei until he takes the 3 steps back. So he should be extra careful that he's staying focused on his davening and on his prayers. He's not getting caught up in shmoozing or other stuff that's going on, because he still didn't fully complete his Shemoneh Esrei until he takes those 3 steps back. This concludes today's learning. Have a wonderful day, and because today is Rosh Chodesh, I'm going to wish everyone also a wonderful month. The month of Kislev is a special month for us, is when Hanukkah falls out at the end of Kislev. So for us, for the Jewish people, it's a month full of miracles. And this year, we all know we need more miracles than we ever did before. Getting our hostages back, having safety and security in Israel, safety and security for Jews around the world. So Mirta Hashem, God willing, this should be a month of miracles for us this year, just like it was in the days of Hanukkah. See you on the next episode.